Hello and welcome to Dr. Say's English World. This is going to be video number 2 in our grammar series in which we explain tenses. We're going to talk in this video about frequency adverbs. You know, in video number 1 we talked about frequency adverbs but briefly. أهلا بكم في القناة. إن شاء الله ده الفيديو رقم 2 من سلسلة قواعد اللغة الإنجليزية اللي احنا بنشرح فيها الأزمنة. هنقدم إن شاء الله اللي هي الفريكونسي adverbs. طبعا زي ما انتم عارفين في الفيديو الأولاني اتكلمنا عنها ولكن كان بنوع من الاختصار. We're actually going to show you what frequency adverbs are. هنوريكم ايه هي frequency adverbs. We're going to talk about the time we use frequency adverbs or when we use frequency adverbs. هنشوف امتى بنستخدم الفريكونسي adverbs. We're going to refer to the different types of frequency adverbs. هنتكلم على انواع frequency adverbs. It's not only one kind. طبعا مش نوع واحد. We're going to refer to the places of frequency adverbs in sentences. هنشوف اماكن ال frequency adverbs in sentences. And we're going to talk about the negation of frequency adverbs. هنتكلم عن نفي ال frequency adverbs. And we're going to have an exercise at the end. في النهاية هيكون عندنا تمرين.
Okay, what are frequency adverbs? ايه هي frequency adverbs? I don't know how to translate it in Arabic, okay? طبعا بصراحة يعني مش عارف أترجمها باللغة العربية ازاي بس هي they are the adverbs which answer the question how often or how many times you do something or something is done. طبعا هي بتجاوب السؤال كم عدد المرات اللي انت بتعمل فيها شيء او شيء بيعمل يعني من خلال اي شخص اخر او اي طرف اخر. اوكي هذا تعريفها اللي هي adverbs معناها احوال. adverbs اللي هي احوال. frequency هنا عدد معناها عدد المرات او تكرار حدوث هذا الشيء يعني. Okay, do you remember in video number 1 we talked about using the frequency adverbs to talk about when we talk about habits or things that we regularly do. فاكرين في الفيديو الاولاني قلنا ان احنا بنستخدم frequency adverbs لما بنتكلم عن عادات او اشياء بتحدث بشكل معتاد. And we mentioned this list of frequency adverbs. Okay, and we even said that it ranges from 100% to 0%. So we have always as 100%, and then we go down until we reach never, which is a 0%. Okay, we introduced all this in video number 1 when we were talking about frequency adverbs. طبعا احنا دي الفريكونسي adverbs اللي احنا ذكرناها في الفيديو الاولاني وقلنا انها بتتراوح من 100% اللي هي always لغايه ما نوصل 0% اللي هي never. But these are not the only frequency adverbs we have in English. There's a lot more to say about frequency adverbs. طبعا مش دي فقط اللي هي frequency adverbs الموجوده في اللغه الانجليزيه. في الكثير اللي احنا ممكن نقوله عن frequency adverbs. So let's go and talk in more detail about frequency adverbs.
Let's talk more about frequency adverbs. Actually, if you look at these adverbs, always, frequently, usually, often, sometimes, occasionally, seldom, rarely, and never, they are not the only adverbs of frequency. They are just the most commonly used. Actually, there are two types of frequency adverbs. We have indefinite frequency adverbs and we have definite frequency adverbs. خلينا نتكلم شوية كده عن الفريكونسي adverbs أو adverbs of frequency. طبعا اللي أنا ذكرتهم المجموعة دي اللي أنا ذكرتها مش هي الوحيدة لكنها الأكثر استخداما. وفي نوعين من اللي هي الفريكونسي adverbs. عندي indefinite وفي definite. And I mentioned the indefinite first because they are, commonly used. They are the most frequency of adverbs. And here they are, for example, always, constantly, usually, normally, frequently, regularly, often, sometimes, occasionally, infrequently, the opposite of frequently, okay, seldom, rarely, hardly ever, and never. There are others, لكن these are the most frequent ones. طبعا مش دول الوحيدين اللي هم indefinite frequency adverbs. indefinite هنا معناها غير محددة الوقت يعني. Let's have a look at the definite frequency adverbs. By definite, they are more specific. So by definite we mean they are more specific. طبعا احنا بنعني definite ان هي مخصصة أكتر. I'm going to show you how. Look for example at these: daily, annually, every day, every hour, every month, every year, all the time, most of the time, most mornings, most afternoons, most evenings, once in a while, once, twice, once a week. For example, when I say every day, so we have a certain day here, every hour, كل ساعة, كل يوم. So you have a specific time. Okay, let's have a look at places of frequency adverbs in sentences. Frequency adverbs go after verb to be, and by verb to be I mean am, is, and are. Okay, they go after am, is, and are. خلونا نتكلم عن الأماكن اللي هي frequency adverbs في الجمل بتيجي بعد فعل verb to be أو be, am, is, and are. Let's have a look at some examples. He is always on time. If you look at always here, you will notice that it comes after is. So always comes after is, after verb to be. لو بصينا هنا على always جاية بعد is. Let's have a look at another example. They are never late. If you look at never, it comes after are. So they are never late. Never comes after are. What about lexical verbs? By lexical verbs I mean verbs which have meanings. بالنسبة للأفعال اللي هي lexical verbs اللي لها معنى, they come or they go before lexical verbs. So frequency adverbs come before lexical verbs. طبعا في حالة lexical verbs فالfrequency adverbs تأتي قبل اللي هي هذه الأفعال. Let's have a look at some examples. I often have dinner at 7 p.m. If you look at often comes before have, and have here is a lexical verb which means I eat. So I often eat dinner at 7 p.m. هنا هنبص هنلاقي have, طبعا هنا فعل له معنى بمعنى يتناول, get بعد often. Let's have a look at another example. Ruqayya always goes to bed late. If you look at always here, always goes before the verb goes, or comes before the verb goes, as you can see here. Okay. Now let's have a look at other or certain frequency adverbs like sometimes, occasionally, normally, and usually. These adverbs, in addition to coming in the middle of the sentence before lexical verbs, they may also come at the beginning or at the end of the sentences. I'm sorry, I've got to mute my mobile phone again. This is the prayer alarm. Sorry. So sometimes, occasionally, normally, and usually, they can come in addition to coming, in the middle, or here in this case before the lexical verb. They can come or go at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. Let's have a look at some examples. Sometimes I go fishing at weekends. In this case, sometimes comes at the beginning of the sentence. Okay. Let's have a look at number 2. I sometimes go fishing at weekends. In this case, the number 2 sometimes comes after, between the subject and the verb. So it's in the middle of the sentence. طبعا في الحالة جملة رقم 1 sometimes جت في البداية، في الجملة رقم 2 جت في النص، جت ما بين الفاعل والفعل. And number 3 sometimes comes at the end of the sentence. I go fishing at weekends sometimes. And we have some more examples. Okay, so sometimes here is at the end of the sentence. Usually they go fishing at weekends, and usually comes at the beginning of the sentence. And here, number 5, I go fishing at weekends normally, and normally comes at the end of the sentence. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about places of frequency adverbs or adverbs of frequency. خلينا نتكلم برضو زيادة شوية عن مكان اللي هي frequency adverbs. Frequently, constantly, and regularly, and by the way, and most other adverbs of frequency can also go at the end of a sentence. Frequently, constantly, regularly, ومعظم اللي هي adverbs of frequency ممكن تيجي في نهاية الجملة. Let's have a look at some examples. Of course, in addition to going in the middle of the sentence. طبعا ده بالإضافة إلى إن هي مكانها المعتاد اللي هو في نص الجملة. Okay, I call him frequently. If you look at frequently is at the end of the sentence, and of course it occurs or goes or comes in the middle of the sentence as in number 2. I frequently call him. So I call him frequently. I frequently call him. Let's have a look at some other examples. Number 3, it rains here constantly. So if you look at constantly, it comes at the end of the sentence. Okay, constantly جت في النهاية. And number 4, it constantly rains here. وهنا في رقم 4 ده طبعا مكانها المعتاد اللي هو في منتصف الجملة. Before the lexical verb or the main verb. Let's have a look at another example. She phones me regularly. Regularly comes at the end of the sentence. In addition to the middle of the sentence, she regularly phones me. Okay, let's talk about another point. If you look at always, rarely, and seldom, they cannot go at the end of a sentence. لو بصينا على always, rarely, seldom ما يجوش أبدا في نهاية الجملة. So for example, if we have a sentence like I call my parents always, so this is wrong. It's not right. I cannot say I call my parents always. Okay? I can say, for example, I always call my parents. Number 2, I go fishing at weekends rarely. Again, this is wrong. Okay, I say I rarely go fishing at weekends. Number 3, he goes to school on foot seldom. Again, seldom here is not right. Okay, now let's talk about places of frequency adverbs. خلينا نتكلم على أماكن الفrequency adverbs. They occur or they come after verb to be, and when I say verb to be, I'm talking about am, is, and are. Okay, هم طبعا بيجوا بعد verb to be. وأنا بتكلم على verb to be أنا بتكلم عن am و is و are. Let's have a look at some examples. He's always on time. So if you look here, always the frequency adverb comes after is. Okay, let's have a look at another example. خلينا نشوف مثال ثاني. They're never late. Never, the frequency adverb comes after are, verb to be. Never get بعد are في المثال اللي هو الثاني. I'm sorry, I was just activating the laser pointer. هنا في المثال دون get always طبعا get بعد is. هنا في المثال الثاني never get بعد are. Okay. Now let's have a look at what we call the lexical verbs. Frequency adverbs come before lexical verbs, and when I say lexical verbs, I'm talking about verbs which have meaning. الفريكونسي adverbs بتيجي قبل اللي هي الأفعال اللي هي لها معنى، بسميها lexical verbs. lexical verbs like for example go, eat, drink, play. هي دي الأفعال اللي هي بنسميها lexical verbs. تختلف عن الأفعال المساعدة. Okay, they are different from the helping verbs. So let's have a look at some examples. I often have dinner at 7 p.m. If you have a look at often, it comes before have. And have here is a lexical verb and it means eat. شوف المثال الأولاني often get قبل have. have هنا طبعا بمعنى مش فعل مساعد. have هنا بمعنى يتناول يأكل. Okay. Let's have a look at another example. Ruqayya always goes to school late. So always the frequency adverb comes before goes. هنا get always get قبل اللي هو فعل goes. Okay. Let's talk about another point. Some frequency adverbs such as sometimes, occasionally, normally, and usually, in addition to going in the middle or coming in the middle of the sentences, they can go at the end, the beginning or the end of sentences. So they occur in three places: at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. So let's have a look at some examples. I'm sorry, I've got to mute my mobile phone. This is the adhan alarm. في بعض frequency adverbs زي sometimes, occasionally, normally, usually ممكن تيجي بالإضافة للوسط لنص الجملة، ممكن تيجي في بداية الجملة وممكن تيجي في نهاية الجملة. Okay, let's have a look at the examples we have. Sometimes I go fishing at weekends. If you look at sometimes here, we have it at the beginning of the sentence. في الجملة هنا جت في أول الجملة. He goes fishing at weekends occasionally. If you look at occasionally, it goes at the end of the sentence. لو بصيت لي occasionally هنا جت في نهاية الجملة. Another sentence. Usually they go fishing at weekends. So if you look at usually, it comes at the beginning of the sentence. هنا usually جت في بداية الجملة. Let's have a look at another sentence. I go fishing at weekends normally, and here normally comes at the end of the sentence.
Okay, let's have a look at the negation of frequency adverbs. خلينا نشوف نفي frequency adverbs. Actually, the place of most frequency adverbs is before the negative verb. So مكان معظم اللي هي frequency adverbs بيجي قبل فعل النفي أو الفعل المنفي. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. I often don't speak English. So often here, the frequency adverb comes before don't speak, the negative verb. Okay? لو بصينا هنا في الجملة هنلاقي often get قبل الفعل اللي هو المنفي. I often don't speak English. Okay. Now we come to another point, which is the fact that some frequency adverbs like always and ever come after the negative verb and not before the negative verb. هنشوف بقى في بعض frequency adverbs زي always و ever بتيجي بعد اللي هو negative verb and not before it. Let's have a look at some examples. Let me just activate the laser pointer. Okay. I don't always speak English. If you look at don't, if you look at the frequency adverb always, it comes actually after don't. Okay. Let's have a look at another example. She doesn't ever drive to work. If you look at ever, it comes after doesn't, the negative verb. Okay. Now, if we have a look at what we call negative adverbs. في بعض الفريكونسي adverbs هي نفسها بتحمل معنى نفي, like seldom for example, or rarely, or hardly ever, or never. All these frequency adverbs, they have they don't come with negative, they are not used with negative verbs. Why? Because they are themselves negative. لأن دي الفريكونسي adverbs هي نفسها بتحمل معنى نفي, فما اجيش معها لا استخدم لا don't ولا doesn't. Let's have a look at some examples. He never drinks coffee. Okay, here we don't say he doesn't never drink coffee. We don't use doesn't. This is wrong. Okay, so this sentence is wrong. I must say he never drinks coffee. Okay, now I saw some more examples. مزيد من الأمثلة. I seldom watch movies and they hardly ever come late. Okay, let's answer this exercise. Choose the best answer from A, B, C, or D. He on time. He is always on time. He be always on time. He always be on time. He is always on time. And of course the right answer is he is always on time. طبعا الإجابة الصحيحة is always number D. Let me just activate the laser pointer. This is the right answer. We cannot say always is because always comes after verb to be. Remember? طبعا ما نقدرش نقول always is لأن always بتيجي بعد verb to be. Okay, let's have a look at number 2. They late. They are never are late, be never late, never be late. And of course the right answer is they are never, and again because never comes after verb to be. طبعا هنا الإجابة الصحيحة are never لأن never بتيجي بعد verb to be. Let's have a look at number 3. She, her email account early in the morning. She always checks, always, it check always. And of course the right answer is B, always checks. Because of she, we are going to choose the verb which contains S at the end. So she always checks. Let's move to number 4. The frequency adverb sometimes goes, هذا sometimes هي frequency adverb بتكون فين في الجملة؟ At the beginning of sentences في بداية الجمل, in the middle of sentences في منتصف الجمل, at the end of sentences في نهاية الجمل, all the above كل ما سبق. And of course the answer is D, all the above. لأن sometimes بتيجي سواء في بداية الجملة أو في وسط الجملة أو في نهاية الجملة. Number 5. I go fishing on weekends, always, regularly, seldom, rarely. And the answer is regularly. Because always, seldom, and rarely never go at the end of sentences. ليه أخذنا regularly؟ لأن always و seldom و rarely ما بتجيش في نهاية الجمل. Number 6. I have tea for breakfast. Often don't often, often I'm not often. And the right answer is often don't. Why? Because often comes before the negative verb. لأن often بتيجي قبل الفعل المنفي. Okay? فمش هقول don't often, هقول often don't لأن زي ما شرحنا احنا إن often بتيجي قبل الفعل المنفي. She to office on time, goes always, go always, always goes, always go. And the right answer is always goes, because always comes before the verb. طبعا تبقى الإجابة الصحيحة always goes، لأن always بتيجي قبل الفعل أو before the lexical verb اللي هو الفعل اللي له معنى. Number 8. Ali speak English. Don't ever, doesn't ever, ever doesn't, ever don't. And of course it's going to be, the answer is going to be B, doesn't ever. Okay, because Ali takes doesn't, not don't. طبعا Ali هتاخد doesn't because it actually refers to a third person singular, a male third person singular. Okay, so if we use a pronoun instead of Ali, we are going to use he. طبعا علي هتاخد doesn't لأن علي بتشير إلى الضمير هي اللي هو المفرد المذكر. It rain here. Always doesn't, always don't, doesn't always, don't always. And the right answer is doesn't always, because always comes after the negative verb. هنا هنختار doesn't always، مش هنختار always doesn't. ليه؟ لأن always دايما بتيجي بعد الفعل المنفي. So we say doesn't always, not always doesn't. Okay. Number 10. Rahma goes to school late. Never goes to school late. Doesn't never. Doesn't rarely. Doesn't seldom. And of course the answer is never. Because, by the way, we don't change never, rarely and seldom into negative. لأن طبعا never و rarely و seldom ما بنحطش معهم نافلة because they themselves are negative. They have a negative meaning. لأنها نفسها فيها معنى النفي بدون don't أو doesn't. Actually, this is the end of video 2 in which we talked about frequency adverbs. Inshallah, video number 3 we're going to talk about the past simple or simple past. Thank you very much for being with me and looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.